Hello everyone, this is Andrew Price from BlenderGuru.com. Today we're going to be learning how to model and texture a car tire. This is the final result here. It's just standard profile tire that you'd find on any sort of sports car or new car. As you can see, it looks quite complex, but it's really easy. Only thing we're actually going to be modeling is this part right here, and then using the mirror system, the array system, and the curve system, we're going to be forming the rest of the tire. Okay, start by opening up a new scene. Delete the default cube. Okay, now we're going to be adding a background image. And this is going to be one tread, just a texture image that you'll find off my website. Let's just load that into the background there. Now we're going to be modeling the white parts of this texture here. So to start with, let's add a plane. Switch to wireframe mode. And just move it over to the start where the white is. And then just moving these handles down, going to be forming the rest of the shape. I'm going to move this across and stop just there where there's a cut. And at each one of these cuts and gaps, we're going to be making a loop cut, or extruding in this case. So to do that, I'm going to hit, first of all, we can move that box out of the way. And we're going to extrude these edges outwards and stop there. We'll do the same there, then stop. Now this doesn't need to be exact. I'm just going to line up the top vertice with there, and the bottom will be slightly out, I think. But it's very important that the distance between these two vertices remains the same, as in don't move this one around to try and fit into place. Keep the same distance across, so always extrude both of them at once. Almost at the end. This one. And this piece here, the reason it's a bit longer is because it's going to be the line that's going to be running up the tire. So we're just going to leave that there for the moment. And we're going to select this edge along here. So hold down Alt and right mouse button on the line there, on the edge, and then extrude it upwards, just to the top of the white shape, like so. Okay? So as you can see, we've got the vertical cuts in where they need to be. Now we just need to do the horizontal ones. So for that, press K, select Loop Cut, and the purple line will appear, and then we're just going to click and slide them into place. Just there. Now these lines here, as you can see, aren't matching up, but we're not going to worry about that. We want to keep them the same distance. And we're just going to do the same here for this one, and for the bottom cut as well. Okay, so we've got all the cuts where they need to be now. Now what we're going to be doing is selecting each one of these white areas and extruding them upwards. So to make it easier, I'm going to split my view into two, go into the side view and extrude it upwards along the Z axis. Okay, I'm going to do the same for this one. Moving over here, hit E, Z, and then moving it upwards like so. Two more shapes to go. Okay, now if we go to the 3D view, you can see we've got the raised platforms where they need to be, but the cuts obviously are not, we haven't put them in yet, these little black areas here. So to do that, we're going to select the two vertices where there needs to be a cut. We're going to hit X and then hit edges. And that will place a cut right there. We're going to need to do the same for this shape. One over here. And the last one over here. Oop, there. Okay. Now, if we leave them like that, there's going to be, the tire is going to be see-through at those points. So we're going to have to create some faces there. So to do this, we're going to first select the vertices opposite to the cut we made. And we're going to leave that one, or else it will select the whole face for the moment. And we're going to extrude these downwards. So moving into this view over here again, extrude them downwards along the Z-axis, like so. And then do the same for this piece over here. They don't have to be exactly lined up, because we'll fix that at the end. Okay. And for this part, we have to select the four vertices where we want there to be a face. We're going to hit F. We have to do that 3 times for each of the cuts. One for the left side, right side, and the bottom. Like that. So from every angle there's a face. We're just quickly going to do that with the rest of them. Two more to go. Come over here. And that's it. So as you can see, we've got one standard, I suppose, tread, which is what we're going to be putting into the array. But first of all, we have to create the side wall of the tire, which is where the texture is going to be finally in the end as well. So to do that, hit Alt, right click on that edge there, and deselect all the rest of the vertices by pressing B twice, and then using the middle mouse button, just deselect all the others. Okay, now moving into the side view, we can turn, oh no, there we go. We can turn off the background image now because we don't need it. And we're just going to extrude the basic shape of a tire, which is a slightly, very slight semicircle. And then we're just going to give it a little bit of a lip at the end here, where the hubcap finally goes. Okay. Now as you can see, that's there's some creases there. That's because we have, at the moment it's at a solid state, so we're going to hit Set Smooth. And that will make the rest of it look all rather strange. So to get rid of that look, we're going to hit Edge Split, and that will make all those sharp corners, anything above a 30-degree angle. So if you get, say, a shape like this, a crease along it, you can get rid of that by increasing the split angle, or by moving it inwards so that it's like that. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit longer actually. Depends on the sort of tire you're going for. This tutorial could be used for all sorts. And then one last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a loop cut just there. And then I'm going to select these vertices just along the edge here and move them downwards. That's because all tires near the edge seem to have a lowered part where the tread sort of fades off. That just gives it that extra realistic look. Okay, it's the basic shape. One last thing, because this part down the middle here is there's not going to be a break. If we leave these vertices here, it's going to look distorted and you'll see like a faint line in your model. So we're going to get rid of those now. So select all the vertices along there and just delete them. Okay, now moving in the top view, we're going to be adding our mirror to the modifier stack now. So do that. Select all the vertices and then drag it to the left along the x-axis. Then hit do clipping just before. You can see they're still overlapping now, and we're just going to wait till they touch, and now they're connected. So now when you pull, they're not going to go anywhere. So now they're a solid object. So that's the mirroring done. It's quite easy. Make sure the edge split is always at the bottom of the stack, so you can do that by hitting the arrows. Now we're going to be adding the array. Now by default, it sets the relative offset to the x to 1. We're going to change that to a 0 now. And change the y by hitting the arrow keys there. We're going to increase it to about point. You have to do a little bit of fiddling here. But we want to make these two lines as close together as possible. So 0.25 is obviously too much. So we're going to change this to about 0.04 or 0.5, that's best. And then hit merge and first last. And that'll make those two together. Again, we've got that weird sort of soft look to it now. That's because edge split is above the array. So make that make sure the edge split is always at the bottom. Okay, now if we increase the count of the array, you can see a tire tread is forming. Now the last step to form the tire is to put it into a curve. But first, actually, there was a step that I missed. Sorry. We're going to select the top row of vertices here. We're going to hit S, Z, and we're going to scale it inwards. This will just make sure that they're all the same height. We're going to do the same with the bottom ones. It's not a big issue, but just gives it an extra touch. Okay, so in the top view, add a Bezier circle. Switch to the side view, hit rotate R, and then holding down Control, rotate it to 90 degrees, like so. And just increase the size of this curve to about there. Okay, now selecting the tire again, I'm going to add a curve to the modifier stack. So do that now. It will appear at the bottom. Make the curve above the edge split again. Now it's asking there for the curve name, which is the curve we've just created here. As you can see in the bottom left hand corner, the curve name is curve circle. So we're going to type that in exactly as it's written. Curve circle, and that includes upper caps and lower caps. If you've typed it wrong, then it'll disappear. You have to type it again. So as you can see, it's all warped around and looking strange. Hit the Y, and that'll follow it along the right axis that we want. Okay, now this is up to you how big you want the tread. If you're making, like I said, tractor tires or bike tires, you might want to make them small. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to go with just a standard car tire, so it's about there, I would say. Be about right. One last thing. You'll notice here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but the tire is not actually perfectly circular. There's little pinches, little jagged edges, I should say. The reason for that is because it's following this curve, which by default, the resolution is set to 12. So we're going to increase that to 200. Now that large increase in resolution isn't going to change our render times that much at all. That's just the curve it's following, so we don't need to worry about being overly drastic with the render times. Okay, it's going to increase the array count until it completely encloses the circle, like so. About there, I would say. I should put that too much. Obviously, the smaller the tread, the more arrays you're going to have to use, which more computing power you're going to need as well. So keep that in mind as you're making this. I'm just going to stretch that out a bit, make the tire a bit thicker. Now for this bit, it's a little bit fiddly. I'm going to be scaling the tire inwards so that these points line up. Now for some reason, I'm not sure if it's a bug in Blender, but it will not merge these vertices. Even though we've selected merge first and last here, it will not merge them. So, to counter that, we're just going to get them as close as we possibly can here. Actually. Sorry. Yeah, so we've got them as close as we can there. And that's all we need to do there. What we're going to be doing now is, because we're going to be texturing the tire, we're going to be applying each one of these in the modifier stack, which will make this object a whole. So, for that, I'm just going to make the width of this tire wall slightly longer, because it looks a bit short where it was before. Just have a look now. It's a little bit better. A little bit longer again. Okay. Looks okay to me. Okay. Now this is something I always do. It's up to you whether you want to do this step. Before I apply anything in the modifier stack, I duplicate the object. So Shift D and press Escape to stop it moving. And then I move it to the last layer. And this just provides me with a backup in case I make a mistake or I want to go back and alter something to the way it was before. So I've just got a backup there on the last layer. Okay, so now we can go ahead and apply everything in the modifier stack. So the mirror, the array, and the curve, but you can leave the edge split the way it is. So now if we press Tab, you can see we've got all these vertices to deal with now. Okay, we're going to, we had that problem over here where the vertices weren't merging. I'll show you what I mean, how we're going to fix that now. We're going to switch, we're going to, in the edit mode, select all the vertices and hit remove doubles. As you can see, it's removed 45 vertices there. That's exactly what you want, because now the vertices now, where they were before that we're touching, now they've merged. Okay, now in the side view, we're going to move on to the texturing side of things now. We can delete the curve. We can probably scale this tire down. It's a bit big. Okay. And center the point there. Split your area into two and make the second window the UV image editor. And select all the vertices, hit U, and then project from view. And that'll just take a snapshot of what you've currently got on your screen and put it over into the UV image editor. Moving your cursor over there, we're going to be just scaling the tire just to the edges there, just before we put the image in. That's about right. Okay, now hit image and open. Now the image we're going to be wrapping it to is one that again you'll find on my website. This is one I pulled off cgcars.com, which is a forum for lovers of both cars and CG. And then this is a user's made one. It's a Goodyear tire texture. This is just basically what we're going to do. So we're going to map this tire. Actually, before I start doing that, just line it up right where it should be. So make sure that that white edge is the same sort of distance to the edge there as it is all the way around. Now the white parts of the texture are what's going to be the bump map. So we want to make sure that this edge here is stretched all the way inwards. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So we're just hitting the B key twice. So we select the, using the brush tool and pressing the B key twice. Just going along and selecting all of these vertices on the edge here. Because it's not perfectly lined up scale-wise to the rest of the tire. Okay, now pressing S, you're just moving it in like that. I'm going to do the same to these two here as well, just so that it's not too oddly scaled, I should say. Okay, so that's UV wrapped now the way we want it. So we can get rid of that window now, join the areas, and add a new material to the tile. Go to the Add a Texture, Image, and then choose the Goodyear Original.png, which is the one we just UV mapped it to. And in the Map Input panel, it's important that you click UV, and that'll just use the UV wrapping we did before. Okay, now we're going to set the NOR value to 1.2, and that'll just enable us to see the changes that we're making. Okay, so I'm going to set up just a basic lighting scheme now. The lighting scheme that I used in the animation, you'll be able to grab that entire scene file if you want to pull that apart. You'll just be able to grab that from blenderguru.com. I'm just going to give it standard lighting at the moment. So it's got one key light, another light there, and this will be just a rim light on the side, and then one more over here. This isn't really part of the tutorial, but it's necessary so we can see the changes we're making. So if we go ahead and render that now, one moment. As you can see, the bump map is the way it should be. Tire's looking good. It's UV mapped properly, but the bump is actually the wrong way around. So to change that, go to the texture panel and hit the NOR button again, and it will go yellow. We hit that there, and that's now looking quite good. Now if we change the color of the tire to black, now I'm not going to go completely black, because I read in Jeremy Burns' book, Lighting and Rendering, you should never make an object in 3D black, because that is unrealistic, and you should leave that up to the lighting. So I never go below 0.2, which is a slight grey color. If we change that and have a look at it, in some angles you will not be able to see the bump map there. Now to change that, what we're going to do is we're going to turn on color and change the screen mode to screen. Now if we render this now, you'll see that it's completely white where the bump is. We're going to turn that down to around about 0.06. If we render that now, actually just so we can see, turn the spec down to about 0.2 and the hardness to 20 as well. Just have a look at that. Now because we've enabled the color map there, you can see that there's the faint white look of it, and this is just faking where the light would be reflecting off the bump. You can increase that slightly, I think, probably 0.08. Give that a look. So that's just ensuring that you'll be able to see the bump map, basically. Okay, now that is essentially how you create a tire in Blender. If you just wanted the standard tire, then you can end the tutorial right now. What I'm going to be showing you now is just a bonus quick tip. If you want to use this tire in an animation, or you want to give the model just that extra little hint of realism, all tires have, with the weight of the car pressure on it, just at the bottom there, it's pressing outwards slightly, so it's slightly squished. So to do that in Blender, what we're going to be doing is using the lattice modifier. This is completely optional, as I said, but it's a cool trick if you want to learn it. So what am I doing? Where is it? So at the bottom there, click Add Lattice. And create a box just slightly around the tire, like so. You want to make sure that every part of the tire is covered by this this box. I should say cage. That's essentially what we're doing. Now, instead of being able to make cuts in the mesh, it's actually handled the number of vertices by in the editing panel, and that's by these numbers here. So we're going to make V set to 3, and that'll just put a cut there, and W we're going to make 12. Okay. Now if we move these points here, that's not going to be affecting the mesh. That's because they're not linked yet. So select the tire and add a lattice modifier. Make sure it's above the edge split again. And again, like what we did with the curve, we're going to be adding the name of the lattice there. Okay, so now they're linked. If we move these vertices like that, you'll notice that the tire underneath is slightly bending to its shape. So as you might guess, we're going to be moving these bottom 2 vertices outwards. And the one's above it slightly as well, just to simulate the pressure there. And then the bottom row of vertices, we're going to just move that up slightly, moving the Z axis upwards. So now it's got that slight bulge, and it's just looks slightly pressed from above. And so that is it. One last thing. This actually still works in an animation. So if you rotate the tire, you'll notice that the lattice is actually affecting it as it rotates as well. So that's perfect for animations. So you can go ahead and do that. Use that. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Check out blenderguru.com for more tips, tricks, and other tutorials. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.